Hello and welcome to Module 2, where we will be building on the concepts we learned from the first module and furthering our understanding of how trauma affects our nervous system. So when we think about trauma, I want you to think about how the nervous system is designed, and it's designed to protect us. When we think about the work of Dan Siegel back in 1999, he had spoke about windows of tolerance to trauma. How do we move through these ranges of intensity of emotional experiences? And within each of these windows is where our level of comfort is. How are we processing and integrating these emotional responses? There's a hyperarousal zone and a hypoarousal zone. And the wider window of tolerance that we have, the more resilient we are to emotional intensities that come from just being a human in this world. Additionally, the wider window we have, the better that we can express a broad range of emotions. So here you can look at the slide and see how the window of tolerance looks. There are different factors that affect your window of tolerance versus a loved one versus mine. Windows of tolerance are affected by genetics, first and foremost. How is your body genetically responding to cortisol? Childhood trauma. Did the person grow up in a pattern of hyperarousal or hypoarousal? Did they have a healthy figure to help them regulate? Did they have safe figures in their life of which they can attach to and co-regulate in a healthy way? Your window of tolerance can be affected physiologically as well. You can be hungry one day. You have a smaller window of tolerance. Your thirst can be affected. Lack of sleep can affect the window of tolerance. Chronic stress over time can absolutely affect the way you're handling stress. So when we think about the window of tolerance, there is the optimal window where we want to be. And then there's a hyperarousal window. This is when there's excessive sympathetic response. We are always activated, whether in fight, where we have anger, rage, confrontation, high energy. Flight, where we have anxiety, panic. We're avoiding any times of high energy, any people with high energy. Fawn, where we're living in anxiety and people pleasing, no boundaries, high energy. And then there's a hypoarousal. This is when we have excessive parasympathetic activation. These are the people we see in freeze. They're numb, they're shutting down, they're dissociating, they are low energy. Now, all mammals are going to respond to any threats through fight, flight, or freeze. It's an evolutionary mechanism that is deeply ingrained in all of us. And it doesn't matter. The threat can be real. For us, it could be perceived. It could be a psychological threat. But we fight when we think we can defeat the threat. We flight or run away when we can't beat it. And we freeze when we can't beat it or run away. So when we're in a healthy, optimal state, an optimal window of tolerance, we can experience a sympathetic response, but then we come back to that parasympathetic rest and digest within 20 to 30 minutes. If the parasympathetic is not activated in that time, the traumatic energy begins to be stored into the body. And that stored energy in our body becomes detrimental to our system. It actually causes exaggerated response to stress. It narrows our overall window where we want to be in the optimal state, such that we're now responding to stress with less tolerance. We begin to bring on compensations to help us move through that repressed emotion. We begin to develop compensations to help us go through those.
If you're loving this video and want to go deeper into trauma and somatics, check out our Psychosomatic Practitioner Training at the Integrative Psychology Institute. On this 6-month online training, you'll learn the essential skills involved in regulating the nervous system and to hold professional guided somatic sessions for your clients. Sign up today and use the code TUBE100 to get $100 off your training.
Repressed emotions or repressed trauma. We have physical health disruptions that come onto the surface. We begin to be in a state of perpetual fight or flight. When we're in that hyper-aroused window of tolerance, this is when that prefrontal cortex begins to shut down or have less communication with the limbic system. We also begin to have a hyperactivation of the brainstem. That means we begin to go into survival mode. And now those higher thoughts are moved down to basic somatic sensory signals. We're only reacting to the environment versus reflecting and being able to go from a state of logical awareness. So when we look at how different people are and how different people react to different stressors and traumas, we look at the window of tolerance. So as a summary, when we think about the window of tolerance, not everyone's windows are the same level. Not everyone's windows are the same size. Some people are living in a more hyper-aroused or sympathetic state. Some people in a more hypo-aroused or parasympathetic state. There's different factors that can affect our windows. Remember, genetics, childhood trauma, did we have a healthy figure? Physiologically, are we just in a state of poor sleep or hunger or thirst? All those can affect the way that we respond to stress. So when we think about our third tenet of mental health, this is when you have an expanding capacity to experience a range of emotions, energies, and environments. That means that wherever your window of tolerance is, I want you to know that you can always expand your optimal zone so you're in a healthier nervous system state. The more contracted we are, the more we're in a hyper or hypo state. The more we are in an expansive state, the more our optimal zone, like a window opening up, expands more and more. And this is why we've developed these somatic practices as a direct, expansive way to open up this optimal zone. And the keyword here is expanding. These practices that we've developed are designed to expand your nervous system capacity.